Don't make dentures for babies, so they didn't have a template smaller. This is the smallest one they had. They said, we'll give you a face, but it's going to be too big. And it is, it's too big. But it gives you a sense of what it might have looked like with its missing face. You see? See how much it sticks off and it's too big, and we all accept that. But nonetheless, it gives you, and you'll be able to this is the human one that goes with it. This is not the human, a stereolithographic copy of the human that was found with it, because she was cradle-boarded, and I wanted you to see a more natural curve and a more natural head. Now, when I say stereolithographic copy, you will see it when you get up close to it, but if you're up close, you can see those lines like there. It's like a record, right? It's built in layers of glue and powder, glue and powder, glue and powder. I'm not going to go over the details of how it's built, but just trust me, there's a machine that knows how to do it and knows how to make the right thickness and to make it weigh exactly the same, be exactly the same. This technology was invented for surgeons to deal with facial malformities and body parts mangled and stuff like that, so that they wouldn't have to do invasive surgery first to figure out what they had to do. They make one of these and they're able to practice and fix before they open up your face and go to work on it. Much better results and much less risk, but then having the face open for 8 or 10 hours while they try to figure out the size of the holes of the bone that's needed. Great technology breakthrough, but it applies to us. So, floor is now open to questions. Questions. You had a question, right? Didn't you have a question earlier? I thought you did. I'm sorry. Yes. So you have to speak up with the question so I can hear you.
You know when you said about the woman finding the bones, did she find, do you know how the face is missing, the mouth bit of the jaw? Was it missing when she found it?
No. The question is, were the skeletons found with their faces messed up? No, they were perfect. They were perfect. The faces got mangled in tumbling down that stream by the water. They must have hit rocks or roots or whatever, and it tore them, did the damage.
You know how, the human bone,
yeah,
was that still connected after the tumble? Would you think that with that other bone being so hard, you think why would that one break more than the other one?
She said, why would the star child break up more than the human? Why would the human just lose its zygomatic arch and the star child would lose its whole lower face except for that piece of maxilla? And it's a good question. It must have just hit a stone really hard and just smashed it in. That's all we can think. I mean, it's hard, but it's not invulnerable, obviously. But that is a good question. But it's thin bone, and it apparently just took more of a lick, or more licks as it went down. But it looks like it just had a really bad smash in the front to take it out in the way that it did. That's all. The only answer I have for you. But it's a good question.
Why was the flaps down to the bottom?
Why what?
Like more the humerus and the femur and stuff. Why would they wash away in water more than the round stuff?
Well, the skull would be more likely to tumble along the top. The bones, the heavy bones, would probably just drop. But the skulls, because they got air in them and they kind of round, they could be bubbled along the top. She said she found them in bushes. That's all I can tell you. She found them snagged in bushes, and she didn't look any further down. But the heavy bones and the lighter little bones, I don't know. Have you ever seen a flash flood? I mean, it would knock an elephant off its feet. I mean, a flash flood is a flash flood. It's terrible. I mean, I know, but a flash flood goes at great speed. I mean, great speed and great power. Water pushed at any speed above like 5 or 10 miles an hour, it'll knock you right over. Look at a big wave, what it does to surfers, Very powerful.
When you showed the picture of the polished bone, and there were no fibres in it, are the fibres only in a certain part of it, or
She's asking where are the fibers if they're not seen in the polished part of the bone. The fibers are not indestructible. We were very, very lucky to find them because of the way the bone was being cut and because they took the time to look at them. The fibers do cut with the diamond blade, cut right through them, and there's no sign of them. And when you scan in close, you might be looking at the nubs, but you can't tell because they're so fine, they're so thin. They're very, very thin, and you just can't see them. Say again? Okay, did we have any of the fibers analyzed? That's a good question, and I should have mentioned it while I was talking. The answer is no. Neither the fibers nor the red residue. Why? 2 reasons. Number 1, no money. It's very expensive. Because these things have never been seen before, nobody has what are called protocols for recovering them. No protocols. So we would have to pay not only for the analysis of the fibers and the red residue, if and when we could recover it, because obviously protocols can be invented for anything, but you have to pay for the invention of the protocols and of the equipment for getting the samples recovered. And when you look at the cost of all of that, we don't have any money. That's just, I am doing this on a wing and a prayer, on a shoestring. It's a miracle I've got as much done as I've gotten done, given what I'm up against. It really is.
On the subject of this red residue that might be in bone marrow, when bodies rot, virtually all the bacteria come from the intestine. The intestine ruptures, rots away all the soft tissues, leaves the bone, and so it takes away the brains when you just take out the internal organs, etc. If it's dry, obviously, you're left with the bone, but you don't carry the bacteria in the bone marrow, so the bones would have to rot from the outside in, or rather than from the inside out. And if these bones are particularly resistant, there are 2 anomalies. These specks shouldn't be there, but they are, and they shouldn't be red, but they are. So there has to be a logical explanation. And
the logical explanation would be that the blood is not normal in the same way that the bone is not normal. And that's probably the right answer, that the blood, if we could find an example of it, would not, if the bone doesn't have the same chemistry, if everything else is so different, why would the blood be the same? It probably isn't. But we can't really say that. But if we get a sample of that, of the red stuff, and analyze it, it could be really amazing. See, that's what I don't get. Science should be jumping all over this to see, what does this mean? What is this about? Where can we capitalize on this?
If it is marrow in there, it's still in there, of course you've got the white cells that contain the DNA.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we don't really need to do that because we have the DNA in the bone and the teeth, We got more than enough DNA to prove this deal. We got like 85% of the bone left. I mean, people say to me, "Oh God, isn't it such a shame we lost the whole, all but the skull? What if we just had some more of it?" Man, I just am so thankful that we have as much as we do because we win with this. This isn't something that's just a little piece. This is a winning hand in a very big poker game. Very big poker game.
A very dangerous game, that's the problem. Well, with the establishment. I mean, you're quite aware of that.
We are aware of that. Very much so.
Apart from the fact
you touched earlier on the theory of the Anunnaki.
Right.
David Icke is also a prominent
right.
within that. I just wondered if you'd like to expand a little bit more upon the 2012 Nibiru. Is it all linked, or do you feel there is something closer to the star child and the David Icke theory?
The question is the Star Child in any way linked to David Icke's theory and the other theories about 2012 and the Anunnaki and any of that? And really, no. I don't see that there's a connection to that at all. Now, if you want me to comment on the 2012, I don't think there's any chance that Nibiru is coming around anytime soon. I don't see that. It would already be visible if it was out there by now. If it was really truly coming for 2012, it would be inside the orbit of Pluto, and it's 2 to 3 times the size of Earth. It has high albedo. It's very bright. We would have seen it years ago, probably. With the way that amateur astronomers look for comets out there, I don't see that as possible. Now, can anything bad happen to us? Sure. An asteroid out there of substantial size that's very dark could sneak up on us, and we'd get maybe at max 6 weeks warning that we were going to be annihilated. That can happen. but it isn't going to be Nibiru. There's no way of that. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. How do you think, if this proves to be an extraterrestrial artifact or extraterrestrial origin, how do you think it differs from the fact that in May 2009, I don't know if you're aware, but Roger Lear showed with the most recent implant that it was definitively of extraterrestrial origin.
How did he do that? I don't know how he did that.
Through the isotopic ratio of meteorite, and it also contained a carbon nanotube structure.
A meteorite or the implant? You said meteorite, you mean implant. I know Roger pretty well, but I don't know that latest result, so I can't really comment on it.
Showed it in May after the X conference.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, I'm Lloyd at lloydpie.com. Just send me a link. That's all you can do, because I can't comment because I just don't know.
No, I'm just making the point that just got brushed aside completely.
Oh.
And this is,
Well, see, it's the same way the Star Child gets brushed aside.
Yeah.
I mean, these are home runs. This is home run after home run after home run, just like that's a home run, if that's true. And they have the ability to say, we can ignore that because nature can do anything. Nature did that, not aliens, not UFOs. Somehow they are forever able to push out the limits of what nature can do, and all it means is anything new that they've never seen before, nature can now do that as well as everything else nature can do. You can't exactly. You can't beat them on that. Yes, you had a question.
Given your knowledge of
loads of questions.
Lloyd's physiology as well as the Star Child skill, I just wondered, you mentioned the alien autopsy video. I just wondered I'm quite interested in what your take was on that.
Well, David, I'm like everybody else. I've read the pros and I've read the cons, and I'm as really confused as anyone. I don't know who to believe. I know Philip Mantle very well, and you all know that Philip pushes that probably as hard as anybody. And I trust Philip's judgment. He's done a very good book about it. But if you read the negatives out there, if you read the negatives about me, folks, you're going to doubt me. And I know what's wrong about that. I know what to believe. But it's like Wikipedia, for example. You go read about me on Wikipedia or read about the Star Child on Wikipedia, and you think, I just listened to just a complete jerk tonight, right? Yeah. Okay, so here's what happened with Wikipedia. When people said, do you know what they say about you on Wikipedia? I said, well, no, not really. I hadn't even looked at it. I didn't even know I was on Wikipedia. It was really a surprise. This was several years ago. And I read it and I said, God, where did they come up with this garbage, And so I said, I'm gonna fix this. And so I started trying to fix it. Every time I would try to fix it, a day or two later, it would be fixed back the way it was. What was that about? So I started calling to see, who can I talk to? I got to get this fixed. This is wrong. Ultimately, I worked my way up to the head honcho of the states with Wikipedia. He was a guy in Florida, and it turns out that most of Wikipedia is written and maintained by graduate students in colleges around the world. Graduate students who have nothing better to do, who don't have enough work to do, that's what they do. And when they they watch out for alternative knowledge people. Anything to do with alternative knowledge, they're going to slag it. They're going to trash it. They're going to put it up and slag it as hard as they can. And then they put monitors on it so that if anybody tries to change anything, they have tip-offs in their computers and they fix it back the way it was. Okay? So I got the head honcho and I said, look, everything some of it's right, but most of it's wrong. Not just wrong, but bad wrong, egregiously wrong. And I'd like you to get it fixed and get it closer to right. And he said, Mr. Pye, you are the last person on earth that I would expect to tell the truth about yourself. I'm the last person on earth to really know the truth about myself. When I was born, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but that is their attitude. You can't. A guy tried to do that and didn't do it, didn't get anything. But I'll tell you this, I told this last Saturday at London, and a guy said, I didn't believe that. And so I went in and started just making changes to see what would happen. He said, one change lasted 12 hours. One change lasted 18 hours. Another one lasted all the way up to 48 hours. But he says, I see what you mean. They will not let your material be changed. And it won't. It's not even worth trying. Now, another thing I can tell you about the criticism of the Star Child that you'll read about on the internet is this. There's plenty of it But it's all built around one article by one man, written in late 1999. Remember when I told you that the DNA came in from the Canada lab and it was negative and that was it? Okay. A guy, like a professional skeptic, a guy who really works hard for the skeptics, wrote an article about it, and that article became like gospel to all the critics and all the skeptics. Stephen Novella is his name. Stephen Novella, if you want to look it up. Okay, Stephen Novella. Yeah, I'm going to lose my voice here pretty soon screaming like this. Novella wrote this article, put it out there in 1999, and it became the reference, and to this day, I don't know that another skeptic, serious skeptic, or Skeptic Magazine has ever tackled the Star Child. I know that Skeptic Magazine has not. I know that the Skeptical Inquirer has not, and those are the big two. Why not? Because they know we're doing good work here. They let the Novella article stand and they reference it every time because he wrote it in 1999 when I had made a lot of mistakes and I didn't know very much. And when the DNA came in negative, so that's what they use as if that's a fact. So I let it go, and in 2003, when the DNA evidence came in, there was another big push for it, and the critics got stirred up, and then it went away. Then in 2006, when the DNA test was announced, the 454 test was announced, and I started announcing on my website, okay, we're going to win this. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for 3 years for. This is it. Home Run City coming our way. Then they really cranked up. And so it got so bad that I contacted Novella. I wrote him an email and I said, look, I understand how this game is played. You're in this to win. You're in this for my blood. You're in this to make me look as bad as you can. I understand. But let's play a little bit fair. Could we? Here's what your article says. It's completely wrong, and here's what the truth of it is. Could you at least put some balance? Could you say, this is what I think, this is what he says? Just do anything to fix it up so that it's a little more balanced and a little more fair. Could you do anything? And he sent me back this one-line reply. The article stands as written. The article stands as written. But he did make one change, one critical, crucial change. Instead of looking at a copyright date of 1999 on that article, you will find a copyright date of 2006. He bumped it up to then, as if in 2006 that was the truth. This is how they play. It's hardball, folks. It is hardball. They take no prisoners. They have to win. See, the difference is I can live with losing this. I can go back to my life as a hominoid and human origins researcher. My life doesn't depend on this. Their life depends on maintaining the status quo because everything changes for them. They are hanging off a cliff by their fingernails. I'm just poor. It's a different feeling. You know what I'm saying? So they really play hard. Yes?
Lloyd, do you think there's a structured intelligence response to stuff like what you were doing? Or is it more, as you say, just individuals that are after sort of grant money and just basic business? Or do you think it's a more overriding nefarious agenda all the way?
No, I don't think it's a collected nefarious agenda. I think it's just individuals who are wacko to defend the faith. They are like, in my opinion, Christian fanatics. They're just science fanatics. They're defenders of the science faith, and people like me are heretics. That's how they see us, that we should just be eradicated, that something should be done about us, that we're just a huge, big problem in their lives.
Well, they're not actually scientists, are they? Because if they were scientists, they would look at the truth.
Oh, but they are scientists. That's where you're wrong. See, we all think that science is this high ideal. You know, Rupert Sheldrake has a great quote about it. Science sees itself in its ideology as maintaining this onward push forward into the unknown, just unafraid, right into the unknown. But in reality, what they're doing is they're having a very cautious tiptoe into the almost known. And then they step into the little known, a little step by step. It isn't like galloping in on a steed with a sword and I don't care what. You know, they are cowards, believe me. They are afraid not of the truth as much as each other. They just they police each other viciously, and there are story after story after story of the ones who break the rules and are just excommunicated. Doesn't matter if they have a PhD, if they break the rules, they're out of the club, and that's it, they can't get a job. They'll teach in high school. Yes?
Snobbery in science as well, for example, or any group of people that consider themselves to be experts. For example, take an Egyptologist. You know, Egyptologists that think they know everything there is to know about ancient Egypt. And along comes an engineer with some ideas. Oh, you're an engineer, you can't possibly know anything. I'm a qualified Egyptologist, what do you know? And the same thing applies with other branches of science as well. They believe that because they've been to university, they've got a degree and they're a so-called expert in the field, that nobody that hasn't got qualifications as high as them can come along with any more creative ideas.
Absolutely. They believe they're God's gift, you know, to science.
In the goalpost, as far as evolution's concerned, with this new missing link, the lemurs they found.
The missing link.
When did the goalpost change? As the missing link?
Understand that missing link is nothing but just a primitive monkey, just an early monkey. Very good thing that they found it. It's good to have it, but it isn't a missing link. It isn't a human. It's got a tail that long. It's a monkey.
Well, it is a missing link. It's missing between marsupials and apes.
Okay, but it's still an early monkey. You know what? Yeah. Yes.
Going on from that, recently the BBC showed a documentary with David Attenborough.
Yes, I saw it.
Full fossil. Which
yes, I saw it.
Anything else, which shows a mammal that is capable of walking upright.
Right. Well, that's what we're talking about, and it's really just an early monkey. They're
used to be between the sort of themselves and humans.
Oh, the old missing link used to be something between humans and the pre-humans, but now they know they're not going to find that. It's been 150 years, and that's not happening. So now,
he said also there was teeth in the jaw ready to
up here. Yeah, they're still there. We can. In fact, probably if we do this new test, we may take one of the teeth out of up here because that's the surest bet to get a good recovery. One of those could be. Yes.
In humans, you get your wisdom teeth at a certain age. Could it be a similar thing in the statile? Could it be its actual wisdom teeth?
We don't know about the wisdom teeth because we don't have enough of the maxilla left. Remember, they had a piece broken off the rear, so we don't know what's what there. There were 3 missing and 2 there, and then we don't know what was back here, so it's in the air, and we'll never know. We'll never know. Next question.
Red marks in the cancer as well. Are they definitely different from the red fibre?
The fiber's not red.
Oh, right.
Don't think that. Don't think that. The fiber's not red. The residue in the holes, in the cancellous holes, is red. The fibers, we don't know their color because the scanning electron microscope films in black and white, as you saw. The binocular microscope, we had cut with the diamond blade, and so we didn't see them, so we don't know. Okay? Yes. Questions? Yes. She says, was there any analysis of the enamel of the teeth and the enamel features of the bone? And the answer is no. Again, no money. Understand this. All these tests that you're asking me about and all that, we would love to have that done. Love to have that done. Again, Otzi, the Iceman. Every test you can imagine, $25 million over about a dozen years. Every test you can imagine. Trust me. We bring in this DNA result, every test you can imagine will be done on the Star Child. Scientists are just going to elbow me aside and say, you just go home and do whatever you want to do, buddy. Leave this to us. And that's what will happen. I'll give it to them. I don't care. I want it off my neck so I can go back to who I was, doing what I really feel passionate about, which is the human origins and hominoids. I'm doing this as a job. This is not something I sought. This is not something I looked for. This has ruined my life. This has wrecked my life. Okay? I'm doing this as an obligation to people just like you. Just like you, who would want it done if you could stand in my shoes and have the position that I have and deal with the responsibility I have. I like to think all of you would do what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it. It's an important job, and I think everybody would feel the pressure that I feel. The history is shining a light on my neck constantly, and I know it and I feel it. And I know you all would too if you were standing in my place.
The pressure huge.
Pressure's huge. Pressure's huge. The responsibility is huge, but the reward, let's face it, is also huge. If this works out, I go down in history. Period. I go down in history. So it's a big deal. A lot's riding on it. I didn't start it to do that. I just started it to get an answer. I just said, yeah, I want to know too. I want to know, just like Belinda. Belinda was telling me today, she said, I just wanted to know the answer. This is before we had any inkling of what it was. She said, I just want to know the answer. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to know the answer. But now I know what the answer is, and now I have to prove what the answer is. Big difference. Big difference. But I've known what the answer is since 2003, and I hope that now, here tonight, you guys know what the answer will be. You should. I hope that I've made it clear enough to you to understand. Did you get it? You got it. Okay.
Boy, here's a nice sheet of reptiles. Here's a nice sheet of breathing. Here's some insects. I'm supposed to be insects.